What's up? This is Ross Hogg. I'm here at ADP.FM. I think DJing is doing just fine right now. I love that with technological advancements, there's no barrier to entry now. There's a much lower barrier. Like, I don't want to be one of these old dudes who's like, I had to carry crates of records. Like, I did, but who cares? It's so much more fun now, and it's so much more accessible, and there's enough gigs and parties out there for everybody. So open format's fun if it's really an open format. If that doesn't mean we just want to hear top 40, because I'm not the best DJ to book for that kind of night. I do love a theme party. You know, I love cuffing. Shout out to my friends who started that and are still doing it. A good theme party, like, is really fun if the crowd is with the theme and they don't want to just come out and hear top 40 or whatever they heard on the radio on the way over. And a good theme party can also push you as a DJ. It can push you to, you know, come up with a new remix or play something you didn't know you loved yet, you know? But yeah, a mix of those things, like a you know, general theme, but you can get open, you can go off script, is really fun. One of my favorite parties to play is Sazon Libre. Shout out Christian, Basic, Wapi, Mr. Lucky. I don't get to play a lot of Latin music. They, you know, it's not just a Latin music party. They play a lot of other stuff across the Caribbean. So I have a big love of dancehall and reggae. So I get to stretch and play some things I don't normally get to play. I mentioned Cuffin', all things R&B. Love playing that party. Love playing Love Supreme, of course, because they really encourage the DJs to kind of stretch out and play some things you aren't necessarily going to hear at every other club. Iconic parties from days gone by. You know, Milk played a big role in a lot of DJs' careers and formative years. And shout out Satva. He started Night of the Remix that I did with Because many times. And this is going back like 20 years, like the earliest days of Serato, when I started playing that party, it was just like all vinyl live blends, like kind of get it how you live and sweat it out in public. But then like early Serato days, like we started figuring out like, what's a good free DAW? Okay, I can get a crack of Acid 5.0 and start making my little blends. Playing that party really pushed me to like kind of develop a sound as someone who makes remixes and to really push and stretch. And when the crowd showed up and was open-minded, it was my favorite party to play. When they showed up and wanted to hear what they heard on the drive over, it was a tough night. So in the before time, when the only thing you could play was vinyl records, you had to really get creative. I think I remember the first live blend I ever did at home. It was this Bounty Killer 45, Worthless Boy. Can't remember the name of the rhythm. But I had the Volume 10 Pistol Grip Pump 12-inch. I had the yellow one. A lot of my homies had the red one. But it had the acapella on it. And they're about the same tempo. And like, I got into dancehall about 30 years ago through Salam Remy remixes, specifically his Supercat remixes. But then I would hear like Mega Banton remixes over like the Black Moon, Barry White joint, and I just couldn't believe it was so dope. So I had the idea to kind of do that in reverse. Like nobody was putting rappers over reggae and dancehall stuff. So I'm like, let me try that. And I remember like calling my then girlfriend, now wife, and like leaving her a voicemail, like, oh my God, but just lining stuff up live with the vinyl and having it sound dope was like such an unlock for me. And I was like, this is like, I really want to dive deeper into this. And I would do nights where I would play a lot of live blends, live mashups, and it was sweaty, man. It was so stressful because like you didn't know like what kind of mixer, like how dialed in the turntables were to each other. So it was just like, light a candle, prayers up, and just go for it. But really makes me appreciate all the modern conveniences of this technology. As far as going back to back, like I like to say that's a very intimate thing to do with someone. I feel like you have to know someone pretty well, and there has to be a degree of trust there. Now, that said, I think the first time I ever DJ'd with King Most, we were holding down the front room at Storyville, another classic SF institution. And it was all vinyl because Serato wasn't out yet, or we were too broke for it. And he said, hey, do you wanna go 2 for 2? I was like, sure, this is a little presumptuous. We just met, but let's just try it. And we ended up doing that the whole night. And by the end of the night, I was like, I think we're close friends now. And 25 years later, we're still close friends. But yeah, one of my favorite things to do is to do like 30-minute rotations with close friends throughout the night. But like the end of the night to do back-to-back, like a back-to-back round robin is super fun because you can really push each other in fun ways. The other cool thing that I like about doing back-to-back at the end of the night is like you've had a few hours to read the room, to see what didn't work, to see what does work. You have a hypothesis. There's this crew over there, the birthday girl and her friends. I feel like if I played this, it would go off. Yeah, you can make different choices when you have the data. What informs my philosophy as a DJ? So for probably 30 years now, I've been obsessed with Jamaican music, like dub, reggae, roots, but dancehall too, and it's really a rhythm culture, So producer makes a rhythm, maybe 20 different artists will voice over it. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I realized that's remix culture. It really is. So you're taking something that can be familiar and you're adding a new element to it. Or maybe you're taking 2 familiar elements and combining them in a new way. And that is really exciting to me. Someone was talking about like, what's the perfect song to play? I'm like, well, it depends on context, depends on the time of the night. But in my mind, it's the song that scratches an itch they didn't know they had. So remixes or originals, I say yes. You need both. The way that I approach remixes is, maybe a little different from the way other people do. I tend to only remix songs that I'm particularly obsessed with. It's either an instrumental that I just love so much, or a vocal performance and a lyrical performance that just really moves me. And as opposed to like, well, I took this 90s rapper and put him over a different 90s hip hop beat. Like, I'm not sure why you did that. It's not different enough. Like, I like to cross genres, cross genres and tempos. Like, it should feel different enough from the original to justify its existence. And then, sprinkling them in where it fits. Being able to get in where you fit in is an important element of DJing, reading the room. I feel like, for me, the worst feeling as a DJ is when I'm going over the crowd's head. Like, what an asshole thing to do, People paid the cover charge, they're out to have a good time. Like, I'm not here to make it all about myself, So you want to give them something that they recognize that maybe they didn't know that they would love, and you could do that with a lot of good remixes. Years ago, I used to call it educatering. It's like, I'm gonna cater, here's something here's something else here's one you don't, or an element of a song you don't, but you shoehorn it in between these other things so it fits. And then, you stick and move, you keep it moving. You don't need to stay there for 15 minutes to make your point. I believe it was The Coup who said if we was in it for the money, we damn near done quit. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because DJing gives me a kind of joy. I can only describe it as exuberance. Like, nothing else makes me feel quite like this. And my thing is, at this point in my life, I want to play music I love with people I love. And if I can do that, then I'm set. When I was younger and maybe in a slightly more bitter place, I used to say, I like playing records, I don't like playing games. So maybe I've evolved a little bit, and now it's like, I want to play music I love with people I love, so I can avoid the games part. There were some DJs back in Austin, like in the early 90s. I moved to SF in 97. So like early 90s, dudes like DJ Snoopy and Spinner T and Snotty, like Baby G, DJ Mel, were like doing shit, and like just watching the crowd react really like flipped the switch in my head, because you know that feeling you get when you hear a certain song, that like, oh shit moment, that exuberance? It occurred to me that if I became a DJ, and I became a good DJ, I could give people that same feeling like en masse. I could make a whole room feel like that. And once I realized that, I thought, why wouldn't I do that? Like, why would I withhold that potential joy for everyone? Now, to be very clear, not every gig goes that way. Things often go left, but man, when it goes right, and you like bring in the right song at the right time, and you see that reaction, like, you feel it. So my wife and I met because we were both DJs. Shout out DJ Netta, Dr. Felicia Angeja Viator, history professor at San Francisco State, go Gators. And we were kind of at like similar places in the scene. She knew way more about R&B and soul than I did, played a lot of the same hip hop. I knew a little more about reggae and dancehall. So we became friends, started dating, started learning more about, you know, music that the other one knew more about. I will say she was far better technically than I was, so I had to start practicing a lot and get better, because I'm like, if she's gonna be at all my gigs, even if there's only 4 people there, she's one of them, like, I really gotta step it up and get better. So thank you for making me a better DJ. And we never tried to bill ourselves as a couple. I mean, out of respect for her and her own talents and her own place in the scene. We would get booked as a couple sometimes, and it was fun, but we tried to maintain that respectful separation. And then when we started a family, we both felt like it was time to step away from DJing. Like, we had a good run, and to her credit, she never had any itch to go back. And after about a decade, I had the itch. And fortunately, the technology had like evolved to a point where it was easier to make remixes, it was more fun to DJ, there was just access to so much more. And boy, shout out my friends who were my friends in the before time, who still put me on after a long absence. You know, King Most, Cutso, Boogie Brown, homies from way back. So yeah, I'm back and doing it now and playing music with friends and loving it. What's up? This is Ross Hogg out of Frisco. I'm gonna play a bunch of reggae, a bunch of rap, a bunch of R&B, and a bunch of remixes. I hope y'all dig it. I'm here at All Day Play FM.